He's a kid on the inside. This is when you understand why, and this is what the new guy says to Hellboy, saying that his father gave you a choice, and he remembers who he is for the love of his father, and he whips out the horns and saves the day. And before he saves the day and takes on this giant squid monster, which is basically a priest, and he turns into this giant squid monster because something goes wrong with prophecy, because Hellboy decides to not give in to his demon form, but gives into his humanity, the part that the father raised, the part that his father knows more than any part, which his father knows him more than anyone else in the comics and in the movies. And you see that more explored, that element more explored in Hellboy 2 and the flashbacks of Hellboy 2 and 1 and in the main story of Hellboy 2, but in the main third act of Hellboy 1. But not so much in Hellboy second act and first act. And however, that's why I gave it a low rating. I'm going to give it even with a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, because there's some parts I just want to, like the Avengers first one with that from 2012, the first live adaptation of the Avengers. There's some parts that you just want to fast forward, but you know you can't because it's important to the story and it's important highlights of these characters. And just like however, it doesn't flow as good as you want it to. It's not paced as good as you want it to. It's not as emotional as you want it to. So that's why that's the same problem with the Avengers and the same problem with the first Hellboy movie from 2005, live action version, and from 2005. There's the same problem with the Avengers from 2012 live action. However, they succeed at giving you a decent enough film to call it well made. Same goes for most of Harry Potter, except for the Deathly Hallows Part 1. Because even though it doesn't get all the things right, it gives you enough to say, okay, that was a pretty solid film. Even though it's not like exactly what I wanted it to be, 100%. So I can't give it not nearly a 9. But I could probably give it a 7 or an 8 or a 6 or a 5. But because it's good enough, but not what I want. Enough. Not enough what I want, because it doesn't flow as well as I want it to. It doesn't feel as organic as I want it to. Same goes for the first Michael Keaton Batman film. There's parts, that's definitely the best out of these three that I mentioned. And it fixes the pacing, but it doesn't feel like a hard reboot on like Hellboy 2, a reboot sequel. It feels like an actual reboot and a chapter in this main character and Batman's life. And because that's part of that, because it gives more of how it delivers. You know, it's basically, it focuses on the same elements like the first one, and however, it does it tremendously better. And that way, there's not pace, and not when the pacing misses a beat. And you just love it 100%, like sort of like Avengers 2, Age of Ultron, where there's not a moment that the pacing misses a step, a beat at all. And the same goes for Hellboy 2 and 2019's Hellboy reboot. Well, both films have their problems. However, it gives you what you want. Like you have the main focus be on Hellboy's humanity, but it does it. But however, this is why I think 2019's Hellboy reboot is the superior Hellboy live adaptation. It's because it doesn't flow as well as I want it to. It's not as emotional as you want it to. It's not as organic as you want it to. So that's why the that's the same problem with the Avengers and the first Hellboy movie from 2005, live action version. And the same goes for the first Michael Keaton Batman film. There's parts, that's definitely the best out of these three that I mentioned. However, it doesn't have the same problems. It's because keep in mind, when I said Hellboy 2 is a reboot sequel, I mean it feels not like a continuation, but more as a way to please the hardcore fan from the comics. Like it's trying to, it's like more desperately, but it succeeds in a way it should fail. Because those whoever loved the new guy like that, he was had more screen time than Hellboy in the first act, is completely absent out of this film. And it doesn't explain you why, if he left the Bureau or not. He just doesn't. He's not even mentioning what happened to him. It's like not mentioning Keanu Reeves in a John Wick spinoff of what happened to him if there was a John Wick movie like John Wick 4 or that's going to happen, that was never really explained of why John Wick is absent. Did he die? Is he doing does he go tying the story at all? It's the same goes for the Bourne Supremacy, sort of. It mentions the Jason Bourne several times, but he never ties into the story, other than they're still looking for Jason Bourne. But he doesn't help out our main protagonist in the Bourne Legacy, not Bourne Supremacy. I meant Bourne Legacy, which focuses on a different main character and it's a different story. Because, okay, I can understand what you're doing. You're trying to name drop, but you're dream dropping Jason Bourne way too often. I guess once or twice is okay, but 10 times, which I think the name dropping like 10 or 20 times, is kind of making us just wish we saw a Jason Bourne movie that focuses on Jason Bourne and it makes us care about less of this main protagonist in this movie. And not that it makes it a bad movie, the Bourne Legacy, because it's not really a bad movie. It's just a little distracting that the name drop him 10 or 20 times in the first in all 3 acts of that film. To the point you question, okay, do I like this film or do I like that's why you have to watch that film? I say twice, because it's a very distracting what is going on, because they won't shut up about name drop Jason Bourne, okay? So I don't think it's a bad movie, but I can understand why people don't like it. It's not because it doesn't have enough action. It has more action, the best shot action scenes in the entire Bourne franchise, and the most action scenes. However, it distracts you a lot when they keep on name dropping the Jason Bourne and you forget that there's more action than there is. And it feels like there's more talking than there really is. That's what I'm trying to say. Because it doesn't invest you enough, but doesn't it completely draw you out of the film. If you see a second time and accept what the film is. Now the same goes for Age of Ultron. Avengers Age of Ultron, the sequel to 2012's Avengers. If you can just accept the fact that this is not a dark movie, but more of a gray level between lighthearted and dark movie, but with tons of jokes and stuff, and focus on the chemistry between the Avengers, then you might actually catch yourself really enjoying it. However, if the trailer, like the Bourne Legacy, is too distracting for it, then I can understand why you hate it, because it's not what you will 100%. You want promise exactly what was 100% advertised. The tone and the vibe that it gives off feels confusing compared to the trailer. However, if you saw the trailer like once, or the first trailer like once or twice, like or not see the show like at all, but saw clips of the show because you were so let down by the first one like me, then you might catch yourself loving it. Bourne Legacy doesn't have that as in that highlight, as in that good of thing like Age of Ultron, because the whole mentioning Jason Bourne for free for all 3 acts of the film. I can understand if you want to just do it in the first act or second act, or just wait till dropping him and the name dropping him, and third act and say, oh, we're still chasing Jason Bourne, but also chasing this other guy. You know, it doesn't tie into anything. Maybe if you did it once or twice in the film, I would kind of let it slide, but I would say I love the film still. You know, you did that, but it was no more than 2 times. I would say I would give releasing like a 9 out of 10. But the fact that you did the opposite really kind of overdid it with dropping Jason Bourne out a lot. I went to bump it down. Where does this tie into Green Lantern? Well, they sort of focus has heavily on they sort of heavily focus on name dropping him, Hal Jordan, and barely having him tie into the story and showing the important element of the story, but just focus on the villain. But you don't see what's so important about the villain because you just want to have him get to chapter because it's that annoying. I mean, it's like having what's his name? Pauly Shore, and giving him a movie and making him the main focus. One of the main characters, like in BioJoe, is okay, he's too annoying. There's no way you can make me like this person. The same goes for the villain of the Green Lantern from 2000 and the extended and theatrical cut. And he is what is wrong with this film. 100%. He is the reason why you hate this film so much, because you just can't stand how the actor portrays this villain. It's like it's so annoyingly dumb, like Pauly Shore from Biodome. That's what I'm trying to say. And the reason why I mention all these movies, because it's like all these movies I mentioned, but without any of the strengths, only the weaknesses. Okay. So, the story is this, Hal Jordan's chosen by a dying purple alien to be the next Green Lantern. He gets the powers, gets sent to train, while his main focus is on this film, who gets some sort of powers but uses it for evil. Well, yada yada. Tells a really forgettable story, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. And focuses mainly on the villain, blah blah blah. When there's more interesting things happening with Hal Jordan than there is with that main guy that you're focused on, that which was the villain. And Hal Jordan defeats him by by no longer letting fear control his life and rising above fear and be truly fearless and using his willpower and embracing and not being afraid anymore, and has the will to overcome fear, because that because he uses that will to fight against evil, and says the Green Lantern by blackest day and brightest night, or those who worship pure evil's night, while the villain's pummeling Hal Jordan's force field, he decides to find hope in that oath, and says and remembers that he has the will is in his hands to be afraid. And he won't let that dawn his life anymore. And he says, those who worship pure evil's night, beware my power. Green Lantern's light. And he shouts out loud on top of his lungs. And it sounds, holy shit, this is going to be epic. And then you see what happens after. This ain't epic. It was just kind of underwhelming compared to how dramatically and seriously and intense you said the oath. This is shit. It's like seeing the Silver Surfer take on Galactus and Rise of the Silver Surfer and not showing him actually fighting Galactus. This having him pose funny, like a weird action figure that's all disjointed and stuff. It is somehow worse. The climax is somehow worse than the climax when the Silver Surfer takes on Galactus and Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer from 2009 or 7, I think. The year came out. It is somehow more underwhelming than that. And less emotional than that. And it doesn't hype on the emotion. The serious emotion as much as de-escalates the emotion once you get to the climax. This doesn't, but you're still invested enough because you're confused enough who's winning here. Sort of like the climax in the 2003 Hulk film. Like when his father says, that's it, fight. The more you fight, the more you like it. You see, you can live with the power. Okay, then take it. And then he decides to take the power of the Hulk and truly embrace his anger and fights against his abusive father that killed his mother and that abused him as a child, as a baby, and fights against it and lets all of his anger on his father, and you're so confused who's winning. Because you can't see what's going on. It turns into this marshmallow puff sort of shape-looking mushroom cloud that's green, and you see all the Hulk's memory climb with his father's, and so at least you think that's what's going on, but it's not very clear. That's somehow why I feel like the climax to the Silver Surfer, and even though the movie was mostly consistent and coherent enough to follow what's going on until it got to the climax, the 2003 Hulk film and Green Lantern cannot be said the same thing. It's so inconsistent with his tone. From the beginning to the second to the third act, until the last 15 minutes, it finds its identity for Green Lantern and the 2003 Hulk film. But by the time, here's the thing, by the time you last 15 minutes, that's it. You failed. Because here's the thing. 2010's Last Airbender found its beat in the last 15 minutes. But here's the thing. Once you get to the last 15 minutes and you find an identity and you think you have it, you failed. You fucked up. You shit the bed. And that's why Green Lantern gets a 0 out of 10, because it didn't find its identity until the last 15 minutes. And even in the last 15 minutes, it decides to you the worst climax since Avatar: The Last Airbender from 2010 climax, when he listens to the big wave and just drops down and the Fire Nation just flees and stuff, just dropping people on the Fire Nation, because it gives you a climax, but it doesn't give you, it gives you all like 2003, one of 2003 and 2010's and 2011's Green Lantern extended and theatrical all have in common. They have all these key moments for building up a climax, but there's no actual payoff. And it's not like you would ever invest in the rest of the film. You just wanted to shut it off, but you couldn't shut because you wondered, is this film ever going to pick up his pacing and find an identity? Yes, in the last 15 minutes of the film, in the third act. Wow. You just wasted your life. That's how I feel about the extended cut and the theatrical of Green Lantern 2011 film. However, what the Last Airbender has separate from what the Last Airbender in 2003 Hulk film, and I'm talking about 2010's Last Airbender movie from 2010 by M. Night Shyamalan, and 2003 Hulk film, Annalise Hulk film, live action. What those two don't have, what Green Lantern does have, is a solid 100% good performance from the main character. Even though all three of these films don't focus on the main character, like, at all. They focus more on the villain. Like, it should be called, and why you going, and the villain's not like, it's not like any of these three villains in the movie are interesting. That's, well, kind of boring, and some are more annoying than others. Rion's the most annoying, but Last Airbender Zuko from 2010 is just the most exhausting to see, next to 2003's Hulk villain. This is, well, 2003 Hulk film, I would give it pros for giving that guy a backstory, but however, you're not like, you understand what he's doing, but you don't agree with him. You don't agree more with Hulk because it fleshes the Hulk's backstory while fleshing out the father's backstory, who's the main villain, who is I forget he and Green Lantern villain from 2011 and Zuko from 2010's Last Airbender movie. One of the also three they look nothing like their original counterparts. And it's not like it's a cool difference, except for maybe Hulk from villain from 2003 until he turns into water cloud thing. And you can't really make him out as dark and poorly lit. He actually had a cool design. I mean, he doesn't look as intense as fun, or interesting, like his comic counterpart, but at least had a cool design, and he got cool. You understand what his powers were, and his super. I remember what his comic counterpart, his name is the Absorbing Man. Yes, you know that guy. That the Absorbing Man, remember that guy that had the boulder as a weapon and carried without him? He doesn't have the boulder in the 2003 Hulk film. Not even once. And he doesn't acknowledge his hero name, his supervillain name. And I wish Zuko didn't acknowledge what his name was in 2010's Last Airbender, because it probably would have made it less cringe-worthy and more watchable if he didn't mention, it would have left the fans' hearts less in tears. If you just got his name wrong, also got Aang's and changed it to the same goes for Zuko. It would be better if you just changed his name and not, please, not confuse the newcomers. You wish. Oh please, why did he change everyone else? Why did he change Sokka and Iroh and Aang's name, but he didn't change Zuko and Katara's name? When you wonder, the question is, what the fuck are you guys doing? Either get the personalities, get the names right, or get at least the personalities right, and get the names wrong, or pronounce them wrong, like Hermione from the Harry Potter franchise. So it's not pronounced like in the book, but you made it more easy to pronounce. But, or you at least made it not sound like utter nonsense. The names. I'm looking at you, Last Airbender from 2010. Or don't mention the names at all. I don't know what. I'm falling off track. The point is, okay, the Green Lantern film doesn't ever. How's that Green Lantern? Not only he doesn't look like his comic counterparts. Not really. I forget what he looks like, but he doesn't look like a cloud. Okay, he looks like an actual character when he embraces his full villain. When he really reveals his true form. But he doesn't look like a cloud with a hat, okay? The same goes for the Absorbent. He does not look like water with a head. That's just stupid. Comic books are silly, but they're not stupid, okay? The Last Airbender show is silly, but it's not full-on stupid, okay? Book can be silly too, like a Harry Potter franchise can be silly, the book. But it doesn't take itself incredibly serious, and to a point it's kind of laughable serious. Like Percy Jackson movie, the first one. I'm not saying I haven't seen the sequel. I'm saying I don't remember seeing the sequel or not. I remember I did, but improved on the tone by adding human elements, but still wasn't funny enough because it was kind of too serious, like the point is it was laughable. The same goes for Green Lantern